Hi, my name is Llisa Demetrios. I am Chief Curator at the Eames Institute of Infinite Curiosity, and I'm here with Design Milk for DMTV Milkshake. Here at the Eames Institute, we have material from the Eames office where my grandparents worked for almost 40 years of both what they collected and what they made at the office. I have a series of 6 questions here, which I'm going to start with the first one. Curiosity is, of course, at the center of the Eames Institute of Infinite Curiosity. What are you most curious about right now? What are the questions you most want to answer? I am most curious at seeing all the different ways that my grandparents solved problems. That's what they wanted to do. They said, we don't do art, we solve problems. And so to see the prototypes, to see the iterations on the ideas, how they honed a form, or even how they put something into production, all those lessons are reflected in the collection here. And that's what I love seeing, is each time, whether it's a graphic or it's a scale model, how they were trying to figure out what the need of the situation and how to solve the problem. The next question. What is the most important lesson that only your grandparents could have taught you? Well, there's a wonderful story about spending time with my grandparents. It's one of my earliest memories of being with them. And it's in Los Angeles, near their office in Venice, California. And we'd gone out to dinner. And at dinner, we had been served borscht. And after dinner, we're walking back to the office, and my grandfather turned to me and said, "What did you think of dinner?" Well, I was about 8 years old, and I did not like borscht soup. And so I said I didn't like it very much. And Charles turned to me and he said, "Well, how would you have done things differently?" Which was so interesting, which meant that if I was going to complain about something, I needed to have a better option. So he talked about, asked me, did I know what was in borscht soup? And I didn't, but he explained beets and onions and potatoes. And we talked about you can make mashed potatoes or a beet salad. And then we talked about why did the chef make it that day. And so it was just this great conversation of maybe that was somebody's favorite dish or all that there was at the market. But it was really learning about constraints and working within constraints that I learned without even realizing I was getting not just a great design lesson, but an invaluable life lesson. Another question? In creating this archive, what objects did you discover that you found most magical? Oh, I think the fun for me in working with the material in the archive is you find objects that are used in multiple ways by Ray and Charles. For example, there's a beautiful green train that was a gift from Billy Wilder to Charles that then they used in a short film, Toccata for Toy Trains. It's in their first Christmas at the Eames house in 1949 around the Christmas tree. It's used also in a prop in the showroom of Herman Miller. And even it's on the toy they designed called the House of Cards. So it's fantastic to see how they could use one object multiple ways, but it also means as we archive the material that we want to make sure we can show how this object is used multiple ways. Nothing is ever used just once. It's used in many different situations in whatever projects that they were working on, which for Ray and Charles could be a film, it could be a photography, it could be architecture. So it's really fascinating, and it's so exciting to always see what they used and then how they used it. Let's see. Do you have a family motto, stated or unstated? Is that something that links your work or worldviews? Well, I really believe with the work that I'm doing now as chief curator has been extraordinary because it's a way to look for overlapping interests, which is part of a design process diagram that my grandparents to show how they were always looking for not just what their office wanted to accomplish or what their client, but society as a whole, and always thinking of looking for that project that could overlap and be best for all. And what that means is it's not just making a chair for Herman Miller, but it's making a sustainable chair. It's to help bridge a cultural gap during the Cold War between Russia and the United States. And so in that way, having learned from them to always look for that overlapping interest, I think that's been passed on through the generations of the Eames family. Is there a tension between your work as an archivist and as an artist? Do they feed each other or fight each other? I actually feel that they inform each other. I think working with the collection and looking at history, the context something is made, the times that it was made, the materials that they were using at that time, fiberglass, wire rod, molded plywood, aluminum, were all new materials. And they were exploring them and seeing what they could or could not do. And what I loved about my grandparents is that they didn't ever consider something a failure, but merely a misconception. And so with my work, they had known that I wanted to be a sculptor, and so I really focused on bronze and silicon bronze, which is the warmest of the bronzes, and to learn how to fabricate and build my own artworks. Just like I saw them building the prototypes and also making the first 5,000 of something before then shipping off both the prototypes and the machines that made the prototypes to Herman Miller. So with the bronze sculpture, I had told my grandfather, I was about 10 or 11, that I wanted to be a sculptor, and he said, well then, you need to use every tool as well, if not better, than the person you hire, or you won't know if they're doing a good job. And that was just a great lesson. It meant you could control all the parts, you could do all the things and build it yourself. It means you're making all the choices. And it was just a really great, empowering lesson that I still value today. Why is bronze my chosen material? It's chosen because I'm third-generation bronze sculptor on the other side of my family. My father's father worked in bronze, and so I was always very familiar with it. And he cast his pieces, but I wanted to TIG weld and build my own pieces. And so that's what I ended up doing. It just has such a warmth, and the patina it has over time also reminds me of the beautiful patinas on the wood finishes and on the Eames furniture today. There's something about it that is timeless. And so I enjoyed making my bronze sculptures and making them myself and being able to explore the different ideas that I wanted to express through my sculpture. I think I answered all the questions.